Hi there, it's Sandra, and you are listening to the podcast A Duchess Like Us. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of A Duchess Like Us, a podcast that reports positively and fairly on Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Today, I'm so pleased that we're back, and I'd like to welcome my co-host to this episode. So, guests, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Okay, well, I'm your foul-mouthed sister from over Hadrian's Wall, Nelly. Follow me at Harklestan, and no bots, please. I'm very discerning with my followers.
Absolutely, we have to be. Hi, I'm Gayle at Breakthrough Diva on Twitter, so feel free to follow me as well. And as usual, consistently and ardently standing up for both Meghan and Harry, and of course my little godson Archie.
Oh,
Hashtag we love Meghan.
definitely.
Hashtag we stand with the Sussexes.
Absolutely. So, on Friday, ITV, the TV network in the UK, released a short 90-second clip of an interview between Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and Tom Bradby from the ITV 60-minute documentary, Harry and Meghan, An African Journey. In this 90-second clip, Meghan let her mask slip for a few seconds and showed the world her vulnerability when Tom Bradby asked how she was coping and if she was okay. This led to a new hashtag trending on Twitter, which was hashtag We Love You Meghan. So last night, Sunday night, that is in the UK, the documentary was broadcast in the UK. Today, in this episode of the podcast, we're going to cover a couple of items that I thought was very interesting. The first one being the vulnerability that Meghan and Harry displayed during those interviews. 2, that Tom Bradby highlighted the pressures of a royal tour and the pressures that the Duke and Duchess have been under for the last year. He also touched on mental health issues, including his own. And finally, a new narrative that is now emerging in the UK press. So what we'll do is we'll discuss points 1 and 2 together because they sort of merge into one. And then we'll talk about the final narrative, the final topic towards the end. Right. So here we go. The vulnerability of Meghan and Harry during those interviews and the pressure that they've been under for the last year. So there were a number of occasions in the interview, and I'm going to just name a couple of them. The first one was when Tom Bradby asked Meghan how she had been coping over the last year and was she okay. When Meghan explained that she had no idea how bad the press scrutiny of her would be, and she added that most of the stuff that was written about her was not true. And most importantly, the reporting of her was not fair. And then finally, TB, or Tom Bradby, asked Harry if he was worried about his wife after living through what his mother went through. And he replied, that is Harry, that his mother had given him a set of values and that he tries to live up to them. However, his purpose was to protect his family, and now he has a family to protect. But the most important thing he said, and I think it should be discussed more openly, was he said that he will not be bullied into playing the game that killed his mum. Now, to me, that was the statement of the whole documentary. The UK press are trying to bully him into playing this game, which is so dangerous. So, ladies, what do you think?
Right. So there's a lot to unpack there, to be fair. So first and foremost, I've always respected Tom Bradby as a journalist. I've seen many interviews that he has done with both princes, Harry and William. He's well known as a friend of both princes. He was even at Harry's wedding, So I expect him to be a little bit more sympathetic to Harry and Meghan than perhaps somebody else would be. And I think that he certainly I thought he was quite sensitive to them in terms of trying to make sure he gave them a fair shot. However, this stuff is ingrained. It's endemic within the British press. The narrative has been set and is being pushed regardless. And we saw that with ITV News straight after the programme aired, what they led with. But in terms of what you're saying or what has been said about Harry not playing the game that killed his mum, the pain that came from Harry when he said that, yes, it was quite obvious that he was talking about the press, in my opinion, and also using some of my professional expertise as a personality profiler. I would say that Harry was not just speaking about the press, but I don't want to play that game with them either, whereby we start to misrepresent and, and presume and assume, and next thing you know, we've got a whole different narrative going on either. But it's quite clear that there is more to this than meets the eye. There is much more. It was a great representation of them as far as it could be, but there was so much more that wasn't said that also contributes to how they're feeling and the pressure that they are under. And one other thing I'd like to state as well is I'm quite fed up, quite frankly, of people talking about the pressure they've been under for the past year. Meghan, in particular, has been under pressure from the day that announcement was made back in 2016 that she was dating Prince Harry. That's over 3 years, day in, day out, relentless. There has been statistics have shown that in May, when the woman you never even saw a strand of that woman's hair, much less anything else during May. And the Daily Fail, and the Daily Fail still put out 451 articles about her during the month of May. The woman was recovering from having her baby, May 2019. The woman was recovering from having her baby. She was on maternity leave. 451 articles in the month of May about Meghan. That's over 14 articles per day. She was on maternity leave. She was on maternity leave. So you couple that now, that most recent pressure, with what she's also been suffering from 3 years ago, not just a year ago, from 3 years ago, when they said that she was basically from the ghetto, straight out of Compton. That was 3 years ago. When they first started talking to her dad and all the shenanigans, that was 3 years ago. Samantha Markle was 3 years ago. It wasn't just so where they are now is a culmination of that intensity. Could you? I know I couldn't do it. I'm a fairly confident, outgoing person. I've been running my own business for over 20 years. I'm used to mixing with all different types of people, but I can tell you now, I could not cope with the pressure of 14 articles, 99% of which are untrue, being not only written about me, but being discussed about me, being trolled. What kind of human could cope with that?
Can I just jump in here? I agree with you. I think that the articles written about her, as she says, are not true and not fair. But also, it's not a case of not coping. I think that she is genuinely upset about what is being written about her, and Harry the same thing. And absolutely. I think, and we're going to talk about this later, but I think that this new narrative that they're driving is that she cannot cope. And it's not a case of she cannot cope. She's upset with how she has been treated, and she has been treated unjustly. That is my opinion. She's a better person than me, because I tell you something, I'd be suing people left, right, and center. I really would. I'd be like the footballers having injunctions out here, there, and everywhere, because they are getting away. The UK press are getting away with murder, and
but they can. They do it because they can.
But the times have now changed, and Harry and Meghan have drawn a line, and people are being sued now. Yeah.
The thing is, people are being sued, but the thing that's really bugging me is people are saying, "Oh, but she lived in America. She was an actress, and she should be used to. She was in Hollywood." I've lived in the States, and their tabloids. There's a very clear distinction between the tabloids, the National Enquirer, People magazine. There's a very clear distinction between those as tabloids and the Wall Street Journal, for example, right? Or even the New York Daily News, which is quite tabloidish in its production. But even so, there is a distinction. We don't have that distinction. What's on the front page of the Daily Mail is more than likely going to be a version of the front page of Closer magazine or Grazia, whatever they are. I don't even know what they are anymore because I don't read them. And then that gets repeated online, and then that gets talked about on every talk show, every TV show, every radio show. You know, it's intense. And you're right, it's not that Meghan can't cope, but like she said, she knew it wasn't going to be easy, but she did expect it to be fair, because we can all see quite clearly it is not fair.
Yep.
It is not fair. The woman got called vulgar because she wore a one-shoulder dress. A few days later, graceful English Rose Beauty Katie wore it and lauded, across the land.
Let's not also forget car door gate as well. When she shut the car door for some bizarre reason, that was a huge story. Why was that a story? That shouldn't be a story. She was doing the most natural thing that came to her, because I suspect she has driven a car before. Of course, she's going to shut the door. I know that she was chauffeured to that event, but things like that should not be a story. You know what I mean?
No. But you know why they are, though, don't you, Nelly? The reason why these nonsensical things about her car door, her one-shoulder dress, her eating avocados, the reason why these inane, and they are inane nonsense, right? The reason why they're stories is because there's nothing else. If Meghan joined that family when she was 34 years old, she started dating Harry, right? 34, she'd lived a life, she had a career, she was an independently wealthy woman, she'd traveled the world. The only people, I've said this before on this podcast, there are four known people who knew her from then that have come out and spoken about the fact that, they've had their issues with her dad, her stupid stepsister, and her even more foolish stepbrother, and the best friend, the ex-best friend. Former Nobody else. Nobody. Piers. Oh gosh, I can't. Do I have to call this woman's name? Let's try and be nice. But her, Lizzie, right? Piers, and all those other people who are talking about her now, they don't know her. They don't know her. They know of her. They may have spoken to her once at an event, but they don't know her. But they have contributed to the narrative for their own gain. And everyone that has met her has said how kind and gracious she is. So that's why you get crap stories about car doors and what else is there to write about her?
No, there isn't nothing else to write about. You could just write about the works that they're doing, but that doesn't sell. They have to sell the salacious. They have to sell anything that appears to be scandalous, and just anything that seems just utterly inane. I mean, I still cannot get over car door gate, because that was started by flipping royal reporter, you know who,
not Palmolive. Who was that one started by?
Oh, Emu the Seer.
Oh, Emu. Yeah, okay.
It was started by her, and then it was made viral.
For why is that a big deal that she shut a car door? It should not be a thing. But again, it's all of these inane stories. It's to exhaust. It's to exhaust the British public. It's to exhaust the British public to the point like when you have people say I cannot stand Meghan Markle. I'm like, what? Okay, why? She's always in the papers doing something like shutting her car door. I don't care if she shuts her car door. I'm like, dude, first of all, calm down, and it's not her fault that she shut her car door. What you should be looking at is why is it reported that she shut a car door?
Exactly.
Why is it reported that she's wearing, she's been called vulgar for wearing a nail polish and a one shoulder dress? Why did she break shoe protocol by wearing wedges, even though a certain other royal has worn wedges and has been praised for it? You keep putting all of these things out there, and it is to drive a narrative, one, and also to exhaust the reader. It's to exhaust people who, by all accounts, don't give a shit about the royal family. For the most part, most people are very indifferent to the royal family.
Yeah,
exactly.
But what you find is that they hate people. They hate certain members when there is too much of them, when a lot is being said about, when a lot has been reported about them. And that is what has happened with Meghan. Think about it. From the ridiculous like car door gate to the shite with her family. Her father being interviewed how many times by piece of shit Morgan, and he himself giving how many interviews to whichever tabloid would allow him. Of course that's going to, it's going to paint a narrative about a person, and of course it is to drive it's to drive it's to make people hate her. It's to put out a negative narrative about a person, and it's to the British media, their whole agenda, and it is we know that this is an agenda. The agenda for them is to ensure that Harry and Meghan, by hook or by crook, either divorce or they leave the royal family.
And what do you think, Nelly, is the purpose of why they would want to do that to Harry and Meghan?
Well, I think look, as far as I'm concerned, everything stems from racism, because her face does not fit.
Her face doesn't fit, and also we cannot have the future or the future being disrupted by a face that doesn't fit. Let's be honest, they are such a huge global brand, and whether you like them or not, if you're logical and sensible, you can see that their brand values are integrity, authenticity, connection, community, all the positive things. They care. They genuinely care. They're also very kind, and more than anything else, they love each other. They love each other, and they love their son.
So basically, what we're saying is that we have got a new face for the royal family. We have got a new brand, so to speak, for the royal family. In that, this is what I don't want to mention the other two, but I have to.
But this is what the other names.
Yes, this is what the other two should be doing as well. The problem is, and I've said this before, is that there is the other two don't work. That's the problem, right?
On any level.
Exactly. They want the perks, but they don't want to do any work for it. Whereas these two are happy to go out and work, because that's what their job is. They understand their job, they enjoy what they're doing, and they do it well. And the other two are, I don't know what to say, really.
Well, the thing is, as well,
there's nothing to say.
Exactly. There's nothing. I was going to say there's nothing to say, because the thing is, and this is where the other two are shooting themselves in the foot. And look, I've been around this PR media world for a long, 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 long time. You know, I look young, but trust me, I'm an old woman. I'm not that far away from my pension, right? Put it this way, my daughter's 17 and I had her when I was 36, so I'm an old woman, right? And you know, it's really, it's sad to see. It's sad to see, because they could have made a huge impact, but they chose, long before Harry and Meghan met, they chose, the other two chose, that their legacy was going to be that they're going to be, at some point in the one day future in a far off galaxy, they're going to be a future king and queen, or queen's consort. Okay. They're short-sighted, because they have made no allowance for the fact that times change and people change. They're narrow-minded, that, you know, they're quite happy to just continue doing things the way they've always been done. So there's no change in there, there's no transformation. And also, they're, as well as being narrow-minded, they're actually very petty, for want of a better word, because what has happened over time is they were very happy to have Harry as their third wheel. And it's quite clear now, and everything that's done in the dark always gets revealed in the light, but it's quite clear now that Harry was really the driving force. And to be fair, I think Kate kind of fed off that with Harry a little bit. You know, there's no chemistry between her and her husband, unfortunately. You know, you'd have to be, oh, well, I can't see it. If anyone else can tell me different, then please tell me I'm wrong. But there's no chemistry between but there's, you know, there's no chemistry between them. And I think she kind of, you know, looked to Harry and fed off that and got a little bit of, you know, he was, you know, he was there for her. Let's be honest, he was there for her. And now, you know, Miss Brightspark comes on the scene, you know, all singing, all dancing, you know, can do almost anything. You know, she's literally like King Midas. Everything she touches turns to gold. And it's shown them up. And in a very short space of time, they have become this global partnership. And they are a genuine partnership. And there's nothing that the other two can do that even come close, apart from copy and paste. And that's all they, and that is all they're doing. They're copying and pasting. So, oh, okay. But, you know, an idea is never as good the second time around as it was the first.
Exactly.
Listen,
that's just brilliant.
I mean, yes, I think, okay, first of all, that Meghan was always going to capture the imagination of the world. Here we have a young woman who has had her career, was made marginally famous by it, had her own wealth accumulated through that said career, meeting this, you know, lovely guy who just happens to be a prince. And look, what we have in mind for what a royal bride is someone who is usually, you know, we've said it before, they're usually white. Meghan is not that. She is, you know, at the time of her getting married, she was what, 36, 37? She's half black and she's divorced. You know, she's had a life. This counters everything that what a traditional sort of royal watcher would expect from a royal bride. You know what I mean? And look, the traditional royal watcher is some little Middle Englander living in a thatched house and has you know, has a picture of the Queen somewhere in his house. I say he, could be a she, or you know, them, or whatever. And you know, those people are people that read the likes of the Daily Mail, they read the Telegraph, they read the Express, and these papers, these tabloids are, you know, they whip up all the isms and all the phobias. And Meghan is someone who brings out all of that in these little Englanders. And that's
that's what's made that, made people very uncomfortable with they can't put, they say, I can't put my finger on it, but I just don't like her.
I don't know what it is, but she
I don't
really
know.
rubs me up the wrong way. Rubs you up the wrong way. And I love how, and I've started to look for it now, especially on Twitter. You ask people, oh, that's interesting. What has she done? What is it that's, and nobody can ever answer.
They never come back to you on Twitter with that.
They can never ever answer that question. And if
Because
they do,
they can't blatantly say it's because she's black, innit?
it's because she's black.
Well, no.
No,
Can they?
what they
Well, of
do.
course
They
that,
can't
because
say
that
that,
would be-
can they?
Well, she's American.
She's American. She's pushy.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay,
Harry's changed.
which he hasn't. He's always hated the press. Where have you been?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Harry hasn't changed. Harry's always. You go back. There's video after video of Harry interviewed saying how much he doesn't like the press and how he takes notes of everybody's name and what they said. That's out there for all the world to see.
So basically, from after the documentary last night, a new narrative has emerged in the UK media, and basically they're saying that Meghan is struggling to cope with her new life in the spotlight, and they're implying that she and by default Harry are becoming unstable, and that in mid-November, when their diaries go down a bit quieter, they'll go away for 6 weeks, and they need that time to recover. And what I'm finding is very familiar about this whole situation is it's the same tactic that they used with Diana, that she was unstable and that she needs to go away and she has mental health issues. And I see the same tactic coming back into this press narrative again. And I'm going to say this now because I think we talked about it earlier, but I'm going to say it. Meghan has not got mental health issues. Meghan is upset with how she's been treated by the press. That does not make you, because you're upset, because you are become emotional about how you've been treated for years, does not mean you have a mental health issue. And I think we need to get this very clear, because there are people who have got mental health issues who need help. But this is not the case. This is the case of people who are relentlessly bullying somebody, and they need to stop. And because she said it, because Harry said it, it does not mean that they have a mental health issue. And this narrative is really upsetting me, because I can see it being played back to, it's aimed more at Meghan, because they're basically saying that a black woman can't cope. That's what it sounds like to me. Ladies, what do you think?
No, you are spot on. Yeah, it's basically saying that here we got this, blackish woman in a predominantly white institution built on the backs of colonialism and the conquest of lands out with Europe. But I digress. Yeah, I've seen this. We've seen this in our own lives, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Of us being pissed at what we see as sort of unfair treatment in our workplace, especially in our workplace, where we get accused of being emotional and unstable, and therefore we get passed over for promotions or not getting a high pay grade and things like that. Yeah, it's absolutely gross. And I mean, we can talk that. I mean, there's another discussion to be had about sort of imposter syndrome within especially within the Black community. But here we have a woman who has shown in this year alone that she is more than capable of holding her own She is clearly the fucking adult in the room.
Mhm.
Oh, I've been
And
waiting for you, Nelly.
she is the adult in the room. You know,
Absolutely.
there's a picture of I don't know if you follow U.S. politics, but the Speaker of the
Yes.
House, Nancy Pelosi,
Mhm.
pointing at Donald Trump and his band of goons, and she's literally the only woman. She's the only woman in that
Mm.
in that room. As far as I'm concerned, they should replace that. I see the Meghan doing that to other people. Well, one
Mhm.
person
To
in
them,
particular,
yeah. Mhm.
and that's what comes to my mind when of her being the adult in the room. um and yeah, I think and we're going back to like how going back to how she said that she thought things would be fair. I don't think she's just talking about the reporting. I also think she's talking about the hierarchy
The
within
family,
the
absolutely.
family as well. um I mean, we don't. Okay, I mean, we don't really have proof. Let's be honest. We're not
Mhm.
journalists. We go by what's out there in the papers, or whatever insider knowledge that we do know from other people who are in the know. But we do know that members of the royal family like to steal ideas and present them as their own and get praise for it.
Mhm.
And you know,
Absolutely.
Mm.
and
Well,
yeah, and I think that's what she means by that. And and it's funny how, yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot of speeches from her in this past year that she's been a member of the royal family, but and a certain other wife of a certain other member of the royal family has decided to make us hear her voice a bit, a bit more, even though she's been married for a longer time. All of a sudden she's making all these very ridiculous speeches that are very incoherent. Um, but it just feels like I don't know how to say this with she's the adult in the room, but like, and they know this, and and they're scared shitless. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think they want her out of the family.
well,
I see.
with
I don't think that they want her out of the family. I think that they want her to know her place, and this is what it's
I
all
agree.
about. It's about
And
knowing
I
her
agree. I
place.
agree. It's about
And
knowing her place. It's about walking steps behind um, the futures. It's about
Which
even
she
walking steps.
does.
Right,
no,
but
no,
but
no,
even
no.
no,
She
but
walks. You can
but
see it.
even
You can
but
see it that
even
she
walk
walks behind them, but she's head and shoulders above them. So
right
yes,
and
because line of
Yeah.
succession, she's behind them, but she isn't.
yeah, but
They're
she
so
isn't
far over the
really.
game. Yeah,
Exactly, and exactly. So it's metaphorically walk behind them, and
Yeah.
also to do the same, and also to do the same with Harry. They want her to be behind Harry. They want her, like you say, Sandra. They want her to know her place. This is why they make such a big deal all the time about, oh, Meghan strode forward again to shake the hands first, and you can clearly see every time they meet
Harry
any dignitaries, it's Harry who pushes her forward.
forward.
It's Harry who
hmm
looks for her. It's Harry who always, because that's a man who has got no problem with his woman, his wife, being his equal. She is his partner. And to quite
exactly.
frankly, the one thing I think that comes across really strongly with Harry is that he's almost saying, to hell with the protocol. I'm royal by name, but not by nature. And I think that is the absolute crux of everything. They've both come from fairly dysfunctional backgrounds, okay? And you can't. The thing that really gets me, I can feel it getting, ranting up now. Right, this is the thing that gets me, is that people think that this damn royal family is some paragon of virtue, and that she
Which
should be grateful that she has been allowed in. I'm sorry, they are no better than any other family out there. They have divorce, they have adultery. I mean, for crying out loud, I was reading something online today, and the nicknames for these people, they were all mentioned. These three people were mentioned in one sentence, and I thought, and this is our royal family, and it was Betty, Tampon, and Kane.
Oh, shame. Oh, Lord. And we know exactly who they mean, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
We know who they mean. But,
Mhm.
and this is not the paragon of virtue that she has come into. They are just as bad, if not worse, than anybody else's family.
But I think I think that Meghan's actually saved the royal family because, as you said earlier, I mean, I've been here all my life. I know of the royal family, but I don't pay no attention to them. When the other two got married in 2000 and whenever it was, 2010, 11, thank you.
Yeah, April 2011.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I slept through the whole wedding because it was boring. I didn't even get out of bed. Right? I didn't even get out of bed that day. Right?
Well,
I did get out of bed. I turned over to whatever it was, BBC Two. There was a nice 1950s film on. And you know what? I don't like black and white films, but I sat down and watched it. Right? That's what happened on their wedding day. That's what I'm going to say. They have no relevance.
The funniest thing is that my dad was a royalist, and so was I. Up until this whole Meghan debacle started, I was a fully paid up member of the monarchy, of the supporting the monarchy. Funny enough, I've never really been that into the Queen, but I've always liked.
Well, of course not.
No, I'm not into the Queen. Never have been. But I've always liked Anne because she's a rebellious woman. I've always loved Diana because we all did, and then of course her boys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Never liked Andrew, and I have my personal reasons why that is. And I obviously can't say those on air, but I've never.
We're going to talk about that after this.
I've never liked Andrew. And Edward, Edward's the one who's probably closest in age to me. We're around about the same age. And so, I grew up, Edward and I grew up together, and I always thought he was a little bit strange, bless him. But having said that, I was aware of the royal family. I did watch the wedding. I remember going and buying a cake because we were going away for that weekend. And it was like, right, well, we've got to get a cake to celebrate this wedding, have the reception when we get to where we're going, and with hats and all kinds of foolishness, until I suppose the veil started to fall away, even before Meghan, because when that story first came out about Andrew and Sarah and the money with Epstein, I started to think, bit of a side eye here. Hold on a sec. And then the Queen gave him that medal at that time. I was like, hold on a sec, this don't look right. And then, of course, there was all of that, the Diana's death. I just thought, as a family, they acted a bit strange. Till we are here now with the whole Meghan thing. And everyone, I've had people today quoting The Crown at me. Oh, and I have to say to them, remember, The Crown is a drama series. It's not a documentary. Okay? It is not a documentary. Yes, there are some events that are loosely based on real life, but it's not a documentary. So therefore, this whole idea of the royal family being this perfect family, it's what's it based on? It's not based on anything, because in reality, when you look at some of their shenanigans, they're far from perfect. And that's what Meghan came into. And she's come in, and quite frankly, she's shown them up, because she's come with her alleged trailer trash family, and they're still looking better than the royals. They're still.
Are they though? Are they though?
Well,
are they though?
Her
well,
mum,
okay, yeah.
The black dreadlocked woman is definitely
with
looking
the nose
better
ring.
Than Queenie, right? Right, it's definitely looking better than Queenie right now.
No, she's looking better than everyone.
Right,
she's looking better than Camilla, and sure as hell an Abel. But yeah. Anyways, enough about them. But
but back to the original point. Back to the new narrative that's emerging, which is trying to emerge, is that Meghan can't cope. And I don't know about you, but
more capable than all of them.
Exactly. But I don't know about you, but in in my lifetime and in some of the jobs that I have done, I have seen situations where you have got a capable, able Black woman come into a workplace and basically ship it, pull it into line, put it into shape, make it efficient. And then people will be behind your back saying, oh, she, there's something about her.
She's aggressive.
Yeah.
And
she's a bit aggressive,
isn't she?
And she's a bit emotional. Yeah, not really ready for. I don't know how she got promoted. She got promoted because she's bloody good. Yeah, very efficient at her job and can do it. And I see the same thing in Meghan. I see a very capable person who knows what she's doing, knows her job, knows how to get across, has got the people skills to do it. And the same situation I've described in my own work experience is happening to her.
But don't you think, okay, that is more... see, I would challenge that slightly further. See, I think that's more of a British thing. And that is the fundamental difference I find between us Brits and Americans particularly, because Americans celebrate success. They encourage success. They encourage a work ethic. In Britain, we give anyone that's too successful, we give them a side eye. All those people on Twitter and online and Daily Mail comments that are moaning about, oh, she shouldn't moan because she's rich and privileged and she's wealthy and whatever. Most of those are Brits, because they don't like it. It's like, why should she have more than me? She's got more than you because she works more than you. She's more talented than you. She's more experienced than you. And that's why when you see somebody, and I see it all the time in my environment, someone that's starting to rise to the top, the British way is to knock them down. We see it with us. Victoria Beckham, prime example. She started off in a pop group, and it's like they expect her to be posh spice forever. She's evolved. She's moved on. I don't care what we think about her personally. The fact is, the woman has moved on. She's carved out a new career for herself. She, and in relative terms, she's pretty successful. So what? But they give that woman hell, absolute hell, because she can't sing anyway. So what? She doesn't care whether she can't sing. She's not a singer anymore. That was just her stepping stone.
See, this is where I disagree with you, because we've got a talentless woman who is at the top of her game, and we've got people who have got more talent in their little toe who can't get through. That's where I'll disagree with you. And the chances are
that's when you that's
going to
against the backdrop of racism.
Yeah, but Meghan's black, and that's what I'm wrestling against.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep,
absolutely.
This is where I disagree. This is why I do side eye Victoria Beckham, because in my opinion, she's not very talented and she couldn't sing. And I have my opinions about her designing skills as well. So, I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to get sued.
But this is not the Victoria Beckham podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But do you see what I mean? That somebody who is not, in my opinion, not talented is doing
talent.
It is for me. If it's about a meritocracy, but if it is a meritocracy,
but that's just it. It's not.
It's not.
Especially in this particular country, consistency will beat talent every single time, and race will beat consistency every single time.
But that's my point. That's my point completely. If Victoria Beckham was black, we wouldn't hear about her.
And also thinking about, I'm also Alexandra Burke and Leona Lewis, two very talented women who could sing and should be having the kind of careers that Adele has, especially like Leona Lewis, who has such an effortless voice. Where are they? I know obviously Alexandra Burke did Strictly, and that's the first time we've heard from her in a long time.
And she advertises Slim Fast.
And that too, I forgot about that.
But even so, they're not career moves, though, are they? They're things that she's doing. It's almost like
to survive. doing things.
Exactly.
She's doing things
look,
to survive.
Beverly Knight is a prime example. That woman has got a belter of a voice. Right, she wanted to be true to her voice. So she doesn't like singing to backing tracks. She wants to sing live, and they wouldn't let her. They wouldn't. She's too powerful. So she's been relegated. She should be up there with like Anita Baker and them, because the woman's voice is amazing. You ever hear Beverly Knight live? She has got the most amazing voice. But
I think I heard her sing with Jules Holland. Either at Kew Gardens or someone like that.
Yes,
She
do you know
is
what?
out of this
I
world.
was there with Lamar. She did a Kew Gardens with, was it with Lamar? Yeah,
somebody.
I think it was somebody. I'm trying to think, but I was there anyway at Kew Gardens. Yeah, with and Jules. Yeah,
I was probably there as well. Yeah. but she again, and this is the distinction that I'm seeing, is that it's a successful Black woman who's got the talent and the skills to be the best is somehow held back, is the word. That's the word I'm looking for.
Sidelined.
Yeah, no, not sidelined, held back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen it in work. You've seen people, I don't know, you must have seen it as well. You've seen people who have the skills and talent to be on the next pay grade or the next senior position. And for some unknown reason, something's found that they need to work on to make themselves more available for that position. But the other person who gets the job tends to be white, has no problems, even though you in the workplace can see they're half as good as that Black person, but yet they're the ones to get the position. And it's not having a chip on your shoulder, because I was taught as a Black woman by my dad, I've got to work twice as hard.
That's right.
To be seen half as good as the other person.
That's right.
Yep.
Never forgot that. Never forgot that.
Yep. Well, that was something that my own father told me before I came to England. That I have to work twice as hard. And my dad is a trained chef, and he trained in obviously here in England, and then he went to Germany, West Germany as it was at the time. So he's seen some shit. He knows some, and he says it's important that you work harder than most, because it's an unfair world. And it's an unfair world for you as a Black woman. Because we're at that intersection of sexism and racism. So we gotta work twice as hard to get even half the modicum of respect to our white counterparts. And it's bullshit, but that's what we have to do to survive in this white man's world, as they say. Chris Rock said that.
Oh gosh. Have you seen Tambourine Man, what he says to his daughters about
I saw him live. I saw him live in Glasgow.
He's so funny. He's so funny what he says to his daughter about the appliances.
Yes.
That is just so funny. But just to bring this back a bit in terms of this narrative about Meghan not being able to cope. As we know, Meghan is more than able to cope. She's more than capable. But it is about, as we've just been talking about, it's about the unfairness of it all. And unfortunately, the cards were stacked against her before she even started. Not just racially, she's culturally, she's American, she's a woman, and she's intelligent. That's not a family that's known for producing
their intelligence.
Exactly. No, but and I don't say that to be nasty about them, because like I said, I've been a royalist my entire life practically. I've only just resigned my card, but they're just not known.
To be fair,
known for that.
I know they're not necessarily known, but I think I think, is it Prince Charles or someone? He went to Oxford. He got good grades to get into Oxford, or fair enough grades to get into Oxford. But Edward got a fucking C and D and still went into Cambridge. What the hell is that all about?
Because he's Prince Edward.
Because
Exactly.
Because that's why. Because he's Prince Edward. There is no other reason.
He literally took the space, took someone else's space because he's a royal. That's the country we live in.
But
it's not
that's
meritocracy.
Also that's the privilege that he's also born into, you know, and you know that's the way of our land at this moment. There's nothing to say it can't change, but that is the way of the land at the moment. And
that's what you also get.
Here.
You get that in America as well. It's not as blatant as here, where it is blatant, but it's not as blatant as here, where he's just Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, and he goes to Oxford. In America, if you've got the money, you'll buy Harvard a new library. That gets you in. It's the same thing.
But look at Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. They've just had this whole new building at the University of California named after them. Because they donated so much money.
I think it's University of Southern California, USC.
Southern California, it's USC. They've just donated so much money. They've had this building dedicated to them, and surprise, surprise, Dre's daughter is going.
There you go. So it's no different here. If you have money, money talks. So it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, money. And I think a lot of the thing with Meghan is that they are jealous that she has her own money. I mean, Suits is now syndicated. She's going to be rolling in it.
Of course, she's
rolling.
She was rolling in it before. Like I've said on this podcast many times before, I knew of Meghan because of that program. You know, this was before she started dating Harry. You know, in fact, it was one of the programs that my partner and I, Dean, kind of, you know, bonded over in the early days, because we both liked legal programs. It was just coming out then, so we used to watch it together. And you know, that was quite a few years ago. I can't remember that. It was quite a few years ago. So, and she has been in, aside from this last series, she's been in practically every single episode, I think.
Yeah,
so,
she was in that show for 7 years. For 7 years.
So 7 years. So she wasn't a bit part. She wasn't someone who just came in every now and again. She was one of the main characters. So, and she was getting paid a lot of money for that. People like to make out that she was some Z-list actress who, you know, just about did Fairy Liquid commercials. But the woman was an accomplished actress. Plus, she had her
website,
her
blog.
She had her blog. She had her fashion collections. She was sponsored and endorsed with many different humanitarian projects. You know, this is not a woman that was unknown. And one of the things she said last night in the documentary that really resonated with me, actually, was when she said, you know, we don't really have this tabloid thing in the States. Yes, they have tabloids, but their tabloids
no one takes
are very
them seriously.
Different. Exactly. You know, they'll say Jennifer Aniston pregnant with aliens baby. Nobody cares about that. You know, no one's interested in. And as she said, she said to her friend, "I'm not in the tabloids," because she was not tabloid fodder. She was not that. Her acting for her was a profession. It's what she did to earn her money and give her a platform to be able to do what she really wants to do, which is the humanitarian stuff. That's how she was using her acting career. She wasn't falling out of nightclubs. You can search that internet from now till dawn, and you're not going to find any photos of her tumbling out of anywhere. There are no tabloid stories of her. There's none of her hooking up with Brad Pitt or whoever. You know, she just was not that person. So to now be exposed to the intense scrutiny, it's not that she can't cope. She said she knew it wouldn't be easy, but she did expect it to be fair, because in her mind she's thinking, well, I'm not really part of that tabloid thing in America, so you know, it can't be that bad in British. You know, the British are polite; they stiff upper lip. Yeah. If they
Yeah.
don't like you and you're black as well, you've got no chance.
Yeah.
And the fact that Harry chose her, Harry loves her. He chose, you know, it wasn't like they were together for years. Remember, Harry and her had been together, what, a year and a half, 18 months? Maximum
under
2
that.
years. Yeah, before they got engaged. So there's none of this long drawn out, you know, like Chelsea and the other one he was seeing, or like our futures. He loved her from the moment he saw her. He wanted her to be his wife from the moment he saw her, and he made it happen. Look how quickly they had that baby. They want to get on with their lives together. They're building their lives together.
Yeah.
They're not dragging their heels. He's certain of her. She is certain of him.
Yeah. And like, and yeah, I mean, we also have to remember, like, from that engagement interview as well, Meghan said that she had never been a part of tabloid culture. She had, you know, she had a relatively quiet life until, you know, she got with Harry, and like it was just a wave upon waves of, you know, photographers and, you know, tabloid fodder and all of that. I mean, I can remember this story from The Sun in the week leading up to a wedding of former boyfriends from high school that she had, and you know, and I mean, and in this list of like former boyfriends, it was one of them was like an actor she went on one date with. How is that considered a boyfriend? You know what I mean?
Well, in the same way, it's considered in the same way that when she had an email exchange with Matt Cardle, she was supposedly scouting for British men or something, wasn't it? Wasn't that the story at one stage?
Matt Cardle and Max George, the guy.
Max George, and they both denied it. They both said, "Huh?" They were both kind of like, "What? It wasn't like that."
Max George actually said, "I don't literally." Because he was interviewed on I think it was this morning or something. This morning, and
that's right.
And like Holly picked, said, so the thing with you and Meghan Markle is like, you know, this. He's like, I don't know where that came from. I do not, and I quote, I do not know why they're doing this to her. That's what he said. And the son of a bitch that ran that story, you know who it is, from The Sun with his pug nose. He's like, you know, went and tweeted, well, Max, you know I love you, but you and I know that's not true. And those were two stories that were printed while she was pregnant, by the way. You know, those were stories that were put out when she was pregnant, and before, and like, you know, even if she did email these guys, this was before Harry was in the fucking picture.
Exactly.
So what's the point? What is the point of putting that out there?
There was
What is the point? There was no point. I mean, that for me, that was that putting something like that out there is to put out, you know, a narrative that, you know, Meghan is, you know.
Yeah, we know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Yeah. But it's absolute. It's gross.
Yeah,
that's disgusting.
So, I think that we have covered basically everything that I wanted to say. In closing, after watching that documentary again, I was not pleased with it. Let's put it that way. I think that Tom Bradby, maybe he shouldn't have done it. Maybe he was too close to them. But I think that because of it, an unnecessary narrative is being created from it. And I think that mental health issues are too important to be trivialized the way the press are doing it at the moment. And the more I think about the documentary and some of the things that came out has made me more disappointed in him and in, well, ITV are rubbish anyway, but the way they played it, I think I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with it at all. So that's just my opinion on it anyway. What about you guys?
Yeah, go ahead. You go first, girl.
I'm okay with it. And the only reason I'm okay with it is because I think it gave To be honest, I thought that the focus on their personal upset was fairly limited, as in terms of the documentary and how it focused on South Africa and the significance of them being there. I thought it was excellent. I really liked that because it brought it all back to me. I loved their tour. I felt very invested in their tour. I learned a lot, and seeing it again last night was, helped to add to that. But the bit about their personal struggles, I'm going to use that word because they're struggles in the sense that they're struggling with the concept of why the press is doing this, because it's harassment. Right? If they're not struggling with their mental health, they're not struggling, as some people want to say, that I read somewhere today, someone said that Harry is suffering from paternal postnatal depression. The man is suffering from a thing, right?
Exactly.
Not another Harry, right? Harry's fine, right? And Meghan is also not suffering from postnatal depression. They are suffering, right, with the upset of being under such constant harassment and scrutiny when they have been, these reporters have blatantly been told that it's not true. They have been proven to be untrue. I'm fed up of people pushing this £10.4 million on Frogmore Cottage. You know what? Even if that had come out of my personal pocket, I'm still okay. And you know why I'm okay? Right, another one who's got a 52-room mansion. You got another one, right? Him and his little Miss Glow Oil, let's call her, right? Who've just had their driveway done for over $1 million.
Yes.
So I'm sorry if they were gifted the cottage. The cottage was due for refurbishment anyway. It was paid for out of the sovereign grant, which is what would have paid for it anyway. All their fixtures and fitting they paid for themselves. If they want to have a £10,000 copper bath, good luck to them. Good luck to them.
Exactly.
It's their money.
Yeah.
I have no problem with people earning and spending their own money. I don't care, because if anyone even dared to tell me how to spend mine, I'd have them. So in terms of the documentary, in terms of, how they were represented, I'm glad that they had a chance to say something. I'm glad that it was also on a mainstream channel, so that everybody that most people in the UK would tune into ITV. It wasn't on some obscure cable channel. It wasn't American. And Tom, I'm not sure. I agree with you. I think Tom's a bit close to it, but then again,
too close.
But then again, he used that closeness to be a bit more sensitive. Would anyone else have given them the sensitivity? I don't know. But yeah, that's the only thing I'm wavering on, because at times he seemed quite pained himself, quite frankly. It was like, come on, Tom, you got a job to do.
I thought he was projecting. I felt that he's got his own issues. He had taken time off for his own mental health issues, but I felt a lot of the time, again, watching it again, I felt he was projecting his issues onto them. That's what I felt personally. But another thing about the interview, about the documentary that I did not like, and it was at the very beginning when they said that they went to Nyanga. They made a big point of saying it's the murder capital of the world. There's rape and this and that, and it was really at the beginning. It was like, that's not but it's not South Africa. That's not the whole of South Africa, is it?
No, it's not.
It's like going to New York. New York has murders too. Do you hear people when they go there?
Yeah, but New York has done a lot over the years to change its reputation. Since they had that zero tolerance that they brought in the late 80s, it has changed. However, I don't have as much of a problem with that, because I liked the fact that they were very truthful about where they were going. They weren't futures sitting in a gilded cage carried by the natives. They were out there in the community with the people, in what is a community that needs help because of what they're going through.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, but it's the way it was done.
Yeah, I agree with you.
the way it was like they had the police officer in the car, and she said, I pray every night that I get home. Right? I'm sure every police person or police person's husband or wife feels the same way, but it was the way it was done. Yes, it is a murder capital of the world, but it's how you say it. And it was done in a very
Clumsy
negative and a clumsy and derogative and negative way. I mean, there's no positive way about murder, but it's how it was put across. Do you see what I'm saying?
Especially in a country. Yeah, sorry.
Go on.
You go on.
No, especially in a country that is, we know the problems that South Africa is going through, and we know there's epidemics of. I'm not going to run the country down, but there's lots of problems in there. But at the same time, there's lots of problems in other so-called developed countries. We don't hear it. We don't hear it pronounced the same way, and it goes back to racism. It goes back to when we talk about knife crime in this country. It's aimed at black boys, and they making a point of bringing it out. It's black boys are doing it. It's this, that, and the other. And I'm sure there are other kids who are knifed who are not black.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see what I mean? It's how you present it. And I didn't agree with how they presented. Yes, Nyanga is dangerous, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
No,
There's
I
other
get.
things about it. And that's what I didn't like.
I agree with you. And on my other account, on my Black Twitter account, a lot of people were I've got two accounts. I got my Black Twitter account and my Royal account in it. So on my Black Twitter account,
I just love you. I just love you, Nelly.
on my Black Twitter account, in which I follow a number of like Black British journalists. Who were interested in seeing the documentary purely from like the point of view of like, because of the viral clip of Meghan, that's the only thing they wanted to see. As soon as they saw that clip about Nyanga, they turned it off because they're like, nah, this is some neo-colonial shit. I am not here for this. I fucking hate the monarchy anyways, so nah, I can't be bothered with that. And they turned it off. You know, so it was very clumsy. It's a typical view of how, this is the typical Western reporting of Africa.
Exactly.
And
I agree with that.
It's very typical. I can't stand it. And we'll talk about this, the other thing that Harry said offline. But no, I fully agree with you in that how the reporting of that was very clumsy. And I also agree that his sort of, because he's friendly with both Harry and William, and of course he himself had his own sort of mental health issues. I don't think he should have been the one. But at the same time, I think I don't think you would have gotten the same questions, the same sort of sensitive. I don't think unless, maybe Michelle Hussein, who did
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just
I don't know. It's a difficult one because I think Tom allowed Harry to really open up.
Yeah. So that's why I'm going yes and no. He was like the choice. But I mean, look, he did an article after the engagement, and he said that he refused to interview them because it would look some sort of way that he interviewed Kanan and Abel for their engagement interview, and now he's doing Harry and Meghan. Because he didn't want to be seen as someone that has an in that respect, even though the world knows that he does have an in. He was at both guys' weddings, for crying out loud. So he's good. He's clearly good friends with them. He has their trust. But of course, there's a double-edged sword to that, because it looks like a bit of bias, and like we've said, and like you've already mentioned, he has his mental health problems. He was projecting a bit. But we say he's projecting a bit. Maybe, just maybe, Harry reached out to him when he was going through that time.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my wonderful co-host for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Don't forget to send in your questions and or topics that you'd like to have discussed on future episodes. If you'd like to be a guest panelist on the podcast, please reach out to me at hello@aduchesslikeus.com on email, or DM me at DuchessUs on Twitter. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, and please share this podcast with anyone else you think would be interested in listening. If you have time, if you could, we'd be grateful if you could leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps me get the podcast seen by more people. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode and that you'll come back for more. So I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.